Hello, I'm Dr. Margaret Rogers Van Coops. I'm actually a professor, but most people like to call me Dr. Margaret. This is Journey into an Unknown World. I've been doing this show now since 2011, and I must apologize for not being on air for the last 6 months. My husband passed into the spirit world December the 20th, 2019, and I've been busy learning how to do all the things that he used to do for me, including this show. So here I am, and I'd like to talk to you this time about how precious you are. You know, we get up in the morning and we don't stop and look in the mirror and say, "Oh, there you are, cutie, cutie, sweetie, sweetie, little one, I love you today." We do that to our babies all the time, don't we? But you know, there's something inside us that wants that done to us still, even though we're adults. And I wonder if you think about this, if you wanted to know, how come I don't pay that attention to myself anymore? Well, the answer is pretty easy, of course. It's a habit, a routine to not say anything to yourself. Had you been encouraged as a young child to say it to yourself every morning, you would do it automatically. And then even then it could be a habit, and you'd promptly not really take the depth of the meaning into your heart and soul and really feel that love for yourself. So where does this divine love, this gorgeous feeling of absolute stillness and peace come from? Well, I'm writing a new book called The Light Side, and some of you may already know that I have my book, The Dark Side, out. So what I'd like to do here is to talk a little bit about both. The light side that I'm working on is even a learning curve for me, because I'm channeling this book, and as I do, I'm learning a great deal. For example, in the dark side, on the first plane of evolution, where form is birthed, in other words, energy is taking a form and knows it exists. And then it has to move up through 7 levels of that first plane into the second plane of evolution. And there, that form will have become aware that it has shape and size and wants to do more with itself somehow. And through another 7 levels, it will evolve into the third plane of evolution, and so on. There are actually 7 planes of evolution, the top one being where the prime fragment, or God, exists, and that aspect of the prime fragment or existence is all that is, and we are descendants of that prime fragment and are therefore completely connected to the oneness. So everything that God is within us. Well, I'm sure you don't stop and really think about that either. So I'd like to do this biochemically. If you stop and think about your skin, for example, and how you were once this little 20-inch being, and now you're 5'6" or more, you may in some way be thinking, wow, this organ called skin is amazing, how it's grown with me and stretched and protected me from knocks and bangs and so on. It's an amazing organ because you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can sense your hairs growing on your head and arms and so on. So you are familiar with your skin. But do you really love it in a divine sense? Are you nurturing it every day? You know, putting on creams and looking as youthful as you can be, or are you looking at wrinkles in your skin and saying, "Oh dear, I should have done something about this years ago. It's a bit late now. I'm getting old." The truth is that anything within the oneness of divine energy rejuvenates itself consistently all the time. And so, in the mirror image of that, your skin is constantly losing little scales of it and growing new ones, new cells. So layer upon layer of your skin is born and ascends through 7 layers, believe it or not, to the surface, where the 7th one dissolves and disappears. Now, where did that part that dissolved from you disappear to? Well, in our world, it's somewhere in the dirt and sand of the world. But in the oneness, it's part of the divine fragment, the original God self. So we go back to source. Now, if you take this consciousness of your skin and you apply it to your inner body, for example, let's think about your eyes. You can see them on the outside, so they're half seen and half not seen. And if you didn't have a textbook to go and have a look at a picture of an eye, what's behind what you can see, you'd never have any idea. You wouldn't have a clue. Well, it's the same with us here on earth. We can see what we can see. We can see the land, the ocean, the skies. We can see the people and the animals and so on, and all the plants and trees we love. And we really do love them. For a while. Until we decide, oh, I want a house here instead of this tree. Or my town is not big enough, I need to make it a big industrial city. And instead of it being just 1 square acre, it's now 400 or 500 miles long and wide. What have we done? We've focused only on the external part of the eye. We've focused only on what we can see and what we want. We haven't focused on what the inner self wants, the workings of the inner self, the parts of ourselves that keep functioning day in, day out. In that same way, we haven't been listening to the oneness and the primary reason we're in embodiment and what we are supposed to be doing at this period in history. So, when you think about that part working in the oneness with us, even though we don't know it's happening, we do get little glimpses now and again of a feeling, an intuition, an instinct that we ought to do something, and it's so strong that we actually do it. Or the reverse, where we wanted to do something we thought we really needed and found out, hey, it's not so important after all, because we've been redirected to do something that's more important to the oneness and to the evolution of every one of us that is ascending back to God. And so when we think about that and then move deeper into the body, we find organs and we find muscles and we find nerves. All these things are muscles and things that are going on in your body are directed with energies of current up to the brain, where your brain is able to process all the things you've seen and done, not just today, but right back to the day you were born. The problem is you don't know you're doing that unless you're sleeping, and then you might have a dream where you suddenly are young again. But for most of us, we forget our dreams before we wake up anyway, so it's lost to us again. But in truth, every moment of your life is action, is generating energy, and it's keeping you here on this planet to do what you've come to do. Well, in the same way, in the oneness, God and all the other ascended masters, teachers, angels, whatever you want to call them, they're looking down on us and trying to help us. And in time, they will descend down to the darkness, and we will ascend up to the light, and we will have exchanged places. But this would be a whole new consciousness, wouldn't it? We'd have the wise now in the darkness, and the so-called new wisdom wise people in control in the oneness. So who is in control now? The dark in wisdom and divine love, or the light in love with wisdom? Opposing polarities. A different total period of the age of evolution of God, that would be. But you know, every day your body is doing the same thing inside. Each organ is talking to another one by the way it vibrates and resonates. And each organ is genetically broken down into protein and acids, basically. Make it simple for you, don't want to be too complicated. And together they are able to develop an awareness of what needs to be done in the area according to their job. So if they are a liver cell, they're going to work on the liver to make it better. A liver cell will not work on your kidneys. Now, every part of your body has a job to do. Scientifically, we won't go into a lot of biology here, but what we will say is that scientifically it's been proved that every single organ in your body has a job to do. And when they all do their jobs at the same time, at the right resonation and speed, at the right heat, then you will be happily strong, active, and doing all sorts of creative things that you love to do, even work. But if you haven't allowed yourself to assimilate many events in your life, and you've harped upon more of the dark side of your nature, where you complain and you're miserable,